titled Next Generation Classrooms and Learning Models, Reimagining the Role of Technology in Education. The panelists are Jeff Evans, Principal Global English School, AIN UAE, as the moderator. Welcome, sir. Robert Wang, MENA Director of Smart Vertical Development, Hikvision. A warm welcome, sir. Supriya Sehgal, Head of Section, Primary and Middle, New Indian Model School, Dubai, UAE. A very warm welcome, ma'am. Bushra Afreen, Head of Academics, Cloud British, Private School, Sharjah, UAE. Aradhana Rana, Director, the Icon Public School, Maharashtra, India. A very warm welcome to all of you. And over to you, Mr. Evans.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed lunch. So we are here this afternoon with you to talk about, obviously, technology and the way in which technology is impacting education generally. Most of us, I think, are from the school, private or government school sector. Some in India, some from the UAE. So what we'll do is to introduce the panel first of all, and we're aiming for around about 40 minutes. So we'll be cutting short the session slightly because this morning was a little bit delayed. So our topic is next generation classrooms and learning models, reimagining the role of technology in education. So clearly, within the last 2 or 3 years, the way that students and schools use technology has changed significantly, both at home for the students and the teachers, and also in school. So what we'll do first of all is to introduce the panels and the panelists, and then we're going to try and focus on 3 questions initially. We may have a little bit of time for questions, but it's going to be fairly fast-paced, I think. So what we're going to do is initially just to ask the panelists to introduce themselves. So name and school or institution, please, and then we'll start off with the questions, and I can sit down. Okay?
Hello. Good afternoon. I'm Aradhana Rana from the Icon Public School in a place called Ahmednagar in India, which is a small town. So I saw the panel discussions in the morning. Most of the schools that are participating are schools from UAE and cosmopolitan towns of India and relatively big schools. I represent that section of Indian society where this kind of technology has taken some time to come. So maybe I'll have a little different perspective on it. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Bushra Afreen from Cloud British Private School, Sharjah. And I'm working as head of academics over there. The topic today for discussion is quite challenging and a debatable topic. And I found it quite interesting because the Emirate of Sharjah is still growing, it's developing, and the approach there is totally different from that of the other Emirates. So here I am with you all today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Supriya Sehgal. I'm from a New Indian Model School, Dubai. This is one of the very old school, even older than me. And I am assessment and curriculum head over there in a school. I'm here in Dubai from last 10 years, and I think every year we are getting a new challenge to work for. And I think right now, today's topic is the most interesting one, as we're discussing on this from last 2 years, and specifically from last 3 months. As soon as we got to know about ChatGPT, and it comes over there in sky suddenly, and we got to know, yes, I think now it's a time again to just talk about IT and edutech and the experience again. So I hope we'll be having a fruitful discussion today, and we'll be learning from each other. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Wang. I'm the Smart Vertical Business Development Director for Hikvision MENA region. And I believe we have all 3 ladies are from the education sector. And me is, we can see like I'm from the technology fields. And we provide all type of AIoT solutions, and the smart technology can be used in education sector. And it's also very exciting to join this discussion today. Maybe we can be inspired and discuss how the technology can help the education sector, can be combined together.
Thank you, Robert. So there was a leadership panel this morning. Mr. Allen mentioned a few topics. I think there will be some overlap today when we're talking about learning and teaching. Spoke a little bit about the digital divide earlier, and we also talked about, or we heard about, homeschool partnerships, so what role parents have in the way that the children are using technology. We want to focus this afternoon, because we're all talking about learning, we want to focus very much on learning and using technology as a tool for learning. So we're not thinking about, the traditional way of teachers using technology to deliver lessons with the famous PPTs, the PowerPoints and the Prezis and so on, but we're thinking more about learning. So we'll have a couple of specific questions. We'll start here with Ms. Aradhana first, please. So in which specific ways have technology as a tool for learning enhanced learning in your school or in your group? And please just share a couple of examples from your own practice.
Thank you so much. Very good afternoon to all of you. Technology, as we see it, like the previous panel discussion, they mentioned pre-pandemic, pandemic, and now post-pandemic. I agree with Alan that we mistake technology for what we have achieved, after the pandemic. Anything that we did during the pandemic was a knee-jerk reaction to what we had. We performed, very, very well. We coped, but it was just a wake-up call. And technology is much, much beyond that. It is opening up of the mind to a time in the future. I remember I saw this little quippet and cartoon where I think almost about 40 years ago, they were talking about a cell phone, like we talk about the science fiction movies, and they never thought that a thing like that would come in. Another thing that comes to my mind is that, in one of our temples, ancient Indian temples, I saw a sculpture in which this woman had a cell phone in her hand. I don't know really what to make out of it, whether it existed, those many years ago, or it was something that was somebody's imagination. But whatever it was, it worked, and today we are all using cell phones like a matter of fact. We can't even imagine our lives that we led before that. So technology is something that changes lives over a period of time. And now, the way it has come into our lives, it is bound to affect our lives a million times more. So for us to be prepared for that future is what we have to prepare our classrooms for. Like you said, just PPTs or just, getting on to Zoom is not technology. We have to think of a world where our children will do what computers cannot do. So from that point of view, we have to change our whole classrooms, change our mindsets. Our classrooms are incubators of innovation, of experimentation. So that if we think of our classrooms like that, that is how it changes. So from our point of view, in the schools, what we have done is not only adapted during this time, but as school leaders, my mind goes to, say, 30 years hence, because these children will be taking up careers 10 years hence. The child in first would be ready to, probably go into the 10th. My 12th standard children will another 10 years. I mean, I have to now imagine what the world is going to be like and prepare them for that. And that is my goal.
Thank you. Thanks very much. We're going to move on now to Ms. Bushra. If we've got any specific examples of how technology has enhanced learning, that would be great.
There are many examples we can take. when it comes to pandemic, like post-pandemic era, like most of the educators were not aware of how to use edtech tools. And since there was no option for them to, without experimenting, they just started taking up new edtech tools. They started integrating technology into their classrooms because there was no other choice, no other option other than adapting to that kind of a learning environment, because that was the need of the hour. Pandemic actually was a boon in terms of educational technology being embedded into curriculum, and how the students and the educators across the globe, they adapted. But yes, there were many areas across the world, whether you talk about sub-Sahara African countries or some of the Asian countries where, technology was low to no level. We were also talking about this digital divide, but then since some of the educators, they stepped up, they volunteered to help reach out to far and wide areas, and they tried to, take internet across through those areas, to those remote areas. We volunteered as educators to reach out, and we tried our best to not let education be compromised at all levels. So I feel so. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
I think my fellow companions already covered lots of things, and I would like to say, when we're talking about technology, we have to just have a simple mindset in mind that astronomer and astronaut both are talking about stars, but they have a different take. So right now, we have educators who are actually having a knowledge, but their act and behavior is like astronomer. They know about stars, they have knowledge about that. But when they become the astronauts and be going over there and learning how to walk on moon, how the stars look like, how the reports will be coming on that will be the journey that we have to walk on. So for our teachers, from the astronomer becoming astronaut, that is how we will be working over there and going into this technology race. Technology is needed, but in a hand of a wise teacher who will be actually taking that over there, not like as a tool, but for sure to shape up and to just give a support to people who are actually looking for that. And when I'll give an example from the institution where I'm working with, we do have students and parents whom we are catering from all part of the society. Within the same class, we have people where the student chauffeur is waiting outside, and we have students where parents are actually feeling very, very much difficult to just pay on the fees over there every month as well. So to that kind of scenario, when you have to bring the technology over there to make sure kids are learning it, so you have to see all aspects, and you have to see the responsibility as well. So every stakeholders have to take the responsibility to take care, and the easiest way how we can grab it. I'll take a small example. We made our corridor walls as learning walls. We just made it, not only, we removed the boards from there, and we just put over there printouts and related to our curriculum standards. We just painted the information over there. And along with every wall, we kept one small QR code. So before pandemic, when we are actually working on bring your own devices, after that, when they have our devices, they're using that. But now it's a time when we'll be telling them how to, learn more on devices and along for the cybersecurity as well. So it's always in teachers' hand to see how to work with technology. So wisely, if we'll be using it, for sure it will be adding value. That's my take. Thank you.
Thank you, Supriya. Of course, it's been a steep learning curve for a lot of teachers and parents as well, actually, in terms of the way that they're using technology. Many schools have, during the last 3-4 years particularly, many schools have been making greater use of apps, quizzes for plenaries, for AFL, for different aspects of the lesson. But the other thing, from my own experience, one of the areas that's improved a lot with the hybrid or the online learning was feedback. And the quality of feedback that the teachers were giving to the children, even voice messages sometimes, it was much more useful for learning than a grade. So, they see the grade or the mark, oh, okay, fine. So the process of feedback and feed forward was a lot more interactive and was a lot better. So our challenge now is trying to get the teachers to carry on doing that when they're back in the classrooms, because we had the hybrid and the online learning and everything had to be focused on technology. Now they're back in the classroom. Some of the teachers are sort of slipping back to familiar habits and more traditional methods. Oops, sorry. Okay, so Robert, could you give us a few examples, please?
Yes, of course. Education is always the first field which technology playing a very important role. And many panelists mentioned that, especially during the pandemic. So before pandemic and after pandemic, there's a huge change. I think you mentioned that there's a boom of the technology using during the pandemic. Actually, last month I was in Turkey, and now Turkey has officially released the regulation that for the higher education university no longer require all students stay inside the classroom. So even they can stay home, they can do online learning and teaching, they still get their certifications and they get their graduations. So this is even after pandemic. So some of the habits, they already have this during the pandemic, but after the pandemic, still people are they are getting used to it. There's no back forward, it's only forward, and people are still using them, like Zoom, like this online, you mentioned the hybrid online courses. I still have a memory that during the pandemic, when the pandemic, the very first month started, we, in a hurry, that we are providing this kind of thermal screening solutions for all the students to protect the healthy of all the students. And before, they used either have a thermal gun, and then you write down all the temperature and records in the paper. So instead of that, automatically it can be recognized by the camera, and it's automatically combined with the student's name. Okay, this is Charlie, this is Rachel, has come today, his temperature is what. And even this is together with the attendance together. So we know all the information instead of paper writing, so all the information is in the system automatically. And also that we have a very interesting case in Chinese school Dubai, that they require dual classroom with the same teacher teaching in two classrooms. How it then can be possible? Because the KHDA has some regulations and the space for each student should be very big during the pandemic. So they split the students into two classrooms. So we use one screen, but synchronizing the content. And the teacher is teaching one classroom, but at the same time, the image of the teacher is also in the other classroom. And at the meantime, the students' feedback, you mentioned the feedback. The live feedback is also coming to the teacher from the screen, which he or she can see instantly. So it's like a live classroom. So if this can be used into two classrooms, it can be used in anywhere. It can be one classroom in Dubai, another classroom in London, in Mumbai. So this is kind of hybrid era has been started.
Thanks, Robert. That's great. And that leads into the next question, really, which is around collaboration and communication. But one of the points made earlier was around, asynchronous learning. So some schools have challenges here with access to technology, access to devices or internet. So, family might have 3 or 4 children with one computer shared. So if the different classes are using the technology on different days, that's one alternative, that's one option that was mentioned earlier. But obviously then at home, it could also be, in some cases, it could be a challenge for the siblings, for the children to be working. So asynchronous work or work that they can do at different times is going to be helpful. So coming on to what you've just said, Robert, we'll start maybe again with you and we'll come back this way. Do we believe that extending the use of technology in the learning process has and will continue to develop students' communication and collaboration skills? Because learning skills, making them into more independent learners, especially with some of the curriculums that we have, with exams and tests and assessment and all of this wonderful process that has to happen. The way in which they communicate and collaborate, has that improved because of technology, and how can we continue to do that now that we are mostly back in the classrooms? We'll start with Robert again. We'll come this way.
Start from my side. The communication, I'm not from education fields, but I heard a news that mentioned that in the current generation of education, the teachers encourage more interactive teacher and the students, not like when I am a student's age, teachers speak in the stage and the students listen. It's like a one-way communication. But nowadays we are pushing like a two-way communication, and interactive is more important. In this point of view, technology can also help. Like that, the hybrid classroom is one thing. Then if any students want to, okay, I'm raising up my hand, I want to answer any question, it will give an instant signal and also record it from the system. The teacher will be aware of that. And also, each student is individual. Then how can we evaluate each student's engagement in each class? And how can we know that different teachers, how is their performance in each class? Technology can help. There is an AI analysis system which can tell you from the classroom, each student, how is his engagement rate. For example, 80% of the time he is listening very well to the teacher, and another 20% maybe he's talking with my mates, he's playing mobile phone maybe even, he's playing his own things, he's not that focused. So this data can be analyzed by AI. And combine all this data of each student, we can know that, okay, this student, he is a mathematics fan. And this another student, he is a really good English learner. So we can, based on this kind of data, we can design an individual teaching plan for each student. I believe this is the modern education which is encouraged to. And at the meantime, we will know the performance of the teacher. That the same group of students, if the English teacher come, they are all very active, and next class, which is mathematics, they are not that active and involvement, so we know that there are some differences.
Thank you, Robert. That's great. So we'll come now to Supriya.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with the points that my fellow component just gave us, that yes, it will be making the schools, specifically the data-rich schools. We can see the horizontal progression as well throughout. Technology is playing an important role, and when we see how it can be making independent learner, it will be making the next generation independent learner. I would like to take a small example of my daughter. A few days back, it was just recalling me when he was talking. She was just about to submit one project and just came up and just was asking me about, just see that, is it fine to just submit it over there? So I said, yeah, fine. If you followed the blueprint or whatever your teachers gave you, it's absolutely fine to submit. Then she asked me, do you think they're going to check anything else than this blueprint? I said, what do you want to say? You are the one only who made it, right? So she said, yeah, I made it. Is it your own, right? Yeah. So she asked, is there any copyright issues for that? I said, if it is your own content, then there will be no issues at all, but you said you did it. And how about the plagiarism? I said, for sure, they will, it's a teacher, they give you online content, so they will check the plagiarism. And she said, I think I have to relook into it again. And she spent 2 hours again. After that, she didn't come and ask me that, yes, do I have to, or I have to trust it. So for sure, when you have technology and you're making students aware about it, they will be thinking on their own, on way means their own responsibility they will be taking to make sure that the content they will be developing or the task they will be doing, they will research, they will come back, but for sure it will be, giving them boost to just produce the originality. And somehow it is connected to morality as well. Moral values are very important, and along with the cyber security, we have to take care of the moral security as well nowadays, because this is teenage. Earlier we used to say, or our parents used to say, okay, after 13 and 14, we have to take care of a child. I think that age decreased now. That age is now somehow around 7, 8, and 9. So for sure, technology is here, but it depends on us as a parent and educator that we will be just shaping it over there in a shape. It's a weapon or it's a tool. It all depends on us. Over to you.
Thanks very much. So we're talking about communication and collaboration. So if we can, maybe from the two principals here or the two colleagues here, if we can think about examples from your school, how have the different systems we're using enhanced or encouraged communication and improved their collaboration?
Well, there are many edtech tools which will allow the students to collaborate within the class. Like, for example, we have the Nearpod, we have Padlet, and Wakelet, which we are using for building up student portfolios, or you say learner attributes are embedded into that. So students actually, they've got very much used to Padlet, which is a very simple collaboration tool. And other than that, Nearpod and like Wakelet and all, these platforms are also user-friendly, and they are easy to adapt or to learn and to grow from that. So focusing on this point, I would like to highlight Education 4.0, the report, which talks about embedding technology into learning. So I think so before and after the pandemic, the schools which were by far developed, they were much adept in using technology. And since from pandemic and post-pandemic, all the schools had no other option but to adapt or adopt technology into their classrooms, in developing their learners, and actually making them adept in using various edtech tools. And besides that, in fact, as educators, we also learned a lot from our students. To be honest, I must say, I got to know about Canva from my students, and I actually learned from my grade 12 students on how to use Canva, and it's a very, very good platform where students, they have used that platform for presentations. We have had a forum, an educational forum, where it was actually student-led forum. So, technology is actually very helpful in terms of collaborations, especially global collaborations, and we are mostly involved in many global projects. Like, there are many projects. Today, Ms. Abhilasha also spoke about it, and we were a part of it together. And we have reached out till UN. That means, like our school, our students, they were a part of different projects, Climate Action Project or Global Goals Project, and other projects also. So we reached out through technology by far till United Nations. That means the students, they felt very proud that their names were called out or were discussed. It all has happened because of global collaborations. And communication skills were also built up. And secondly, the students who were introverts, shy in nature, and yet they were skilled. Technology actually has helped them to build confidence and building their EI as well, the emotional intelligence too, because some of them, they panic, they shiver when a mic is given to them. But that the screen where they were representing on an online, during the pandemic on an online mode, I think that has actually promoted confidence building among students. So somehow technology has actually played a very crucial role in advancements in terms of education, I can see.
Thanks very much. And it's interesting to see or to hear from students how, some members of each class preferred learning online because they didn't have distractions, they didn't have friends, playing or messing around or chatting or whatever, and they could focus. And as you said, some of the students who were a little bit more shy in school, in the classroom setting, were happier behind the screen, and vice versa. But they did miss out definitely on social interaction and all the other more exciting aspects of school life, clubs and trips and etc., and chatting with the friends. So we're going to have one more quick question now, which we'll probably just have with two of the panel. What are the challenges in terms of using or continuing to use technology to support education, and how can we resolve them at the school leader level?
This summit is about technology, so we're talking so much about technology, but learning has three aspects: the content, the method, and the tools. Technology has to do a lot with tools, but we must not overlook the content and the method, where leadership, content is decided by the leadership, method is decided by the teacher. Now, the technology comes in whereas tools is concerned. So yes, the content, like I said before, the content is the vision of a leader. So first thing that we should do is to alter the content to be used in a scenario where technology is going to take over the world. Second, method. Method is to be used by a teacher. Not necessarily that the teacher has to be technology dependent. I've been fortunate enough to study in good schools and colleges where without any technology, we did collaborative learning. We did what I proposed. I didn't know the term flipped learning when I started the school, but the method I used in the school was flipped learning. Later on, I came to know that the term is coined flipped learning. So as a common sense method, flipped learning is one of the methods that is really, really effective. It translates into collaborative learning. It translates into the kind of adults or kind of citizens you would like to develop, because this is where certain qualities in a child are developed, where self-learning is the best form of learning, and flipped learning teaches you self-learning. So whereas tools are concerned, like they've mentioned, lots of tools available. Now, challenges of technology, no matter what the challenges are, the fact is that it's come into our lives. We have no choice. If there are challenges, we've got to overcome it. I come from a school, like I said, in a small town. Challenges are the digital divide. So now the future is in hubs of learning. We cannot have schools where, we stand-alone schools. We will not be able to give the students what they deserve in this kind of scenario and the future scenario. So hubs of learning are sure to come up. Internet cafes were the solution to internet when it came up. Now learning cafes have to come up. So this is the future of learning, and I don't think it's a great challenge, because I think we'll find solutions to these challenges very soon. And we will have technology seep into our lives, take us ahead, and move us to the world of the future.
Thanks very much. Thank you. We're going to go now to Supriya, and then we'll have some questions. We'll have a couple of short questions. So could you just speak a little bit about the challenges and how they could be overcome? Please, first of all.
If I start with the first challenge, I think we discussed earlier also in the previous discussion, was parents' concern about use of devices. That's the first concern for the educator. Like, parents are so much concerned that how my child will be spending too much time over there, okay, it will be health constraint and all. So that's one of the things. Second, for sure, it's the financial aspect. We have to see if there are 4 or 5 siblings, and then they have to use a device. They have to provide that much device. It may not be possible for the parents as well. But for all these things, we have solution. We do have schedules. We do have habits that we have to develop. Like, if we are developing the skills in school as well and we are helping them, they do have extra classes after school, or maybe in the PE classes and other classes when we are paying attention on their health and on the practices as well that is there in school. So in home, we should have to, we have to control the use of device. So if a child is spending on maybe doing the work over there in school on device, and for sure we are using it a lot for assessments mainly in almost all the schools. We have to see how we have to control it, and how as an institution we can support parents. Probably we'll be having different timetables or different days for the bringing devices, doing that, keeping that in control. Or when it comes on health, for sure we are working more on vocational trainings. So we should have to increase it. It's not possible on daily basis, but for sure weekly or fortnightly we can have schedule for the same thing. So as this, I think this learning everybody got from pandemic, the problem will come, for solution will come along with that, or maybe after that for sure. So yes, if we'll be using technology, and we are already using it, and it's a very, we can take a small example. I think again it's coming in my mind. I'm from India, and when you go, I visited after 3 years after pandemic, And here, I am not fond of, doing the payments online. And you go over there and vendor saying, you do Google Pay. And you feel like, okay, he knows about Google Pay. So if a layman can understand, in schools as well, we have to educate for sure. We are educating the students already, but we have to make all the stakeholders responsible if we will be bringing any solution at place as well. So I think it could be one problem today and another problem tomorrow. Technology can give a solution, but along with that, we just have to, as ma'am already mentioned, it is not only technology or the time that how we are bringing it further. It is we who have to make the next generation ready to be a solution maker. That's what.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And access to technology obviously is an issue. I know some schools from experience have been able to provide budget devices, not sort of fancy, expensive devices, but they've been able to provide budget tablets or gadgets to the students. However, in some cases, they increased the fees a little bit, so they applied for a fee increase, which is going to be allowed again next year, I think, up to 5%. The fees have been frozen for a few years. So they've been given permission to increase the fees a small amount on condition that they give, within that, they give every student a device. Obviously, other schools will have, this is something that my own school are pushing for at the moment now with the governors, to have sets of tablets or trolleys or spare computers so that the children can use them as and when, because when we had an inspection last year, we had this idea or this strategy of, year 2 is a Monday and year 3 is a Tuesday. They weren't happy. They weren't impressed at all. They said
we
no.
did the same thing. Because we were not able to increase that many labs, so we made that labs that can go to the class, so a movable lab. So we had trolleys, and in that we were shifting it over there to classes. So we were able to serve the need of the same way. I think it's a good idea.
And that could be different models. So it could be that a suite of computers or tablets or whatever that the teacher borrows, or it could be just 2 or 3 that are available for the class in case that students don't have access. So, okay, we're going to take now, and I think Afrin and Robert are going to be the first to answer questions. We'll see what the questions are. So do we have any short questions, please? We're going to have perhaps only 2 or 3 minutes for questions. Very short, focused, to the point questions, if we can.
Yeah, good afternoon. And you all have spoken very nicely how to use the technology and all. But now this is the era of embracing the technology instead of becoming techno-addict. Now, maximum use of technology, students and even the teachers are becoming techno-addict. So if we have to enhance the learning outcomes or we have to engage the learners effectively, we have to train them or we have to scaffold them to embrace the technology instead of becoming a techno-addict. So what way the AI is useful to make a child or to make a learner to embrace the technology more? Because the question arises again, are you learning the machine or you are learning through the machine? So nowadays, after this COVID, everyone started learning the machine instead of learning through the machine. And the future fit aspect is learning through the machine, embrace the technology, embrace the machine learning instead of becoming machine. So what are those ways?
Okay. Robert, do you want to try that one?
Yeah, it's kind of a challenging question. But one thing before I answer the question, that learning the machine or learning through the machine, and people are starting to embrace the technology. But one short point before this thing, you mentioned you mentioned that the fee. Most of the people treat it as a common challenge, but actually this is never a challenge. This is not a true challenge, because if we use the technology in a smarter way, it is saving the cost, not consuming more cost. Compare that if we are using the AI system, the time the teachers has been saved, and the time that the students has been saved. And also, more importantly, the more effectiveness the students are learning through it, not like in the old way, but more interactive ways. Let's say the AI system, the learning management system, can analyze this and, okay, from your history of your career of learning, this is your strong point, and this is your weak point, and automatically it will push you up the courses or the content which you need to strengthen them on. This helps the students a lot. And this value cannot be measured by fees, by cost. This is non-measurable. This is most value part. So how to transfer learn machine to learn through machine is that this is not only the responsibility of the AI technology, but also together technologies and the teachers need to co-join together. We need to design some individual development plans for each student, combine the data, combine the teaching method, combine with the student's behavior. This is like some 3 stakeholders we need to work together.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks very much. Do you want to say anything?
So, well, I think the curriculum heads or all the academic heads, along with the department heads, they all need to sit together how well the technology, I mean, the learners can learn through technology and they do not become addicted to technology. So I'll just give you an example of one of the programs where I'm working as a climate activist. So it's breshna.io. It's one of the wonderful platforms where, you know, students and educators, they just need to create their account and then they create the games to educate, you know, their classmates or different educators also, but that does not require coding and all that because it's a platform where Mariam, a very good friend of mine, she's the co-founder also. So she has created that platform and we are actually focusing on, you know, like the sustainable development goals through that. And she actually created it during the pandemic where we were thinking about collaborating in different ways where there is, you know, minimal time is used for maximum learning output. So that's how she worked with different educators from around the globe. We were also a part of it. And she came up with this brilliant idea of this Breshna platform where children can create their games. Educators can actually sign up and they create games for AFL, for, you know, like different types of assessments. Even that can also be embedded in lessons. It's time bound, you get the data, you get everything. So it is like learning through technology rather than becoming a techno addict. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Bashir. Thank you. So just, you know, in summary, we need to try and take the best practice that emerged in the last few years and make sure that it's accessible to all students, but also to keep the focus on learning rather than, you know, distractions that the students kind of are exposed to and fall into day to day. So screen time is one of the big issues, isn't it? You know, and that's one of the topics that many parents talk about. But we've also got to remember that 2/3 of their students' time is outside of school. Yes. So it's, you know, as a parent, what are you doing to monitor what they're doing or to guide them or to give them, you know, good examples, etc. So it's that balance, isn't it? But making sure that the technology is a tool for learning, as the gentleman said, that it's not just there for the sake of it, and that it's used effectively and is actually enhancing the learning and making the learning better. So that's the next step. So thank you very much.
I just want to add last one point because I was just waiting, maybe my turn will come. I think we are back to that era when we started using calculator. And if you're not giving the right question to the calculator, that's not giving us the right answer, right? I'll ask how you will get 64. It can be 60 plus 4. It can be 8 multiplied by 8. It could be so many ways. So same way when now ChatGPT is coming up, if we're not giving the right prompt, we're not getting the right answer. I think the time is coming when we have to improvise the questioning skills rather than answering skills. We have to just actually see, are they able to ask a right question, rather than we'll be focusing and checking the answer sheets. Because we know there are many who are not in favor of open book exams. There are still many who know it's not a right way to assess people. So I think it's a time when we will be focusing more on questioning skills, and now there we will not be a slave of technology for sure.
Definitely. Thanks very much. So we will move on because I know the program is a little bit behind. So thank you very much. Please give the colleagues a big round of applause.